So cloud app security, then, I mean, there's a book out called Exponential Organizations. It's probably 5 years now, but it talked about the role of the CIO needing to dominate APIs. And this was written, in the cloud world 5 years ago. And they were thinking about it just from data and the need to transport data around. And it's become really important in the security world, becoming good at APIs for sure. Do you think that, not many people use Microsoft for backup. So I think it's probably strong to use a third party as a shim. I know you don't like the word shim, but what do you think? Do you think an API is a shim, or do you think it's more of a?
Well, so the book you're talking about is talking about APIs to replace kind of your old business to business data transfers, and APIs are definitely become the king for that. But from a IT security perspective, one way to think of APIs that's a little bit different is technically properly setting up your SSO is the king of all APIs. At the end of the day, no matter what protocol you use or what access you use, really what you're talking about is an authentication API between all of the different systems. And so if the CIO is being focused on IT administration and security and infrastructure, that's really the API they should be worried about, is their authentication API. And everything bridges from that, whether it's SIEM for log monitoring or threat hunting through your logging. If you don't have your authentication API baked and really integrated, you're going to have the same issues you had with traditional systems like BizTalk and things like that, where you're like, okay, these three vendors are going to FTP me a file. These guys are going to email me a file. And then you're going to tell someone to keep all that straight.
Yeah, keep it straight.
And so on the business side, they built the APIs to make that more universal, so they could do things like data loss prevention and fraud analysis, things like that. But to do that, you needed to make everything equal.
There was in the 2005. I remember I used to fly out to the Burton Group conferences, and they were the identity kings. This is back in PKI. Back to George's question, when they were trying to figure out ways to do PKI certs, and securing kind of the first generation of digital infrastructure. And they often said that whoever controlled identity was going to win. And the problem is no one wanted the liability in the day. And so identity now is dominated by Microsoft. It's just clear winner there, at least from the corporate side. And it seems to me that and I know if a couple of our customers are listening, they argue about that, mainly because of the religious battle of Microsoft owning anything. But to your point that authentication is king, and if a CIO can dominate the SSO and authentication, they win. They 100% win.
Another thing you can consider an API is going to be file sharing. That's another infrastructure and security level API. And much like authentication, if you don't give the business a way to do it, they're going to find their own way, and it's going to be inconvenient and defeat security, right? Because what we run into is people who got a malware, got a virus. We say, well, where did it come from? And they say, well, I had to share files with this customer, so we just used their personal Dropbox or OneDrive or what have you. The business, and at the end of the day, it's all going to end up being the business's fault, not the client's, right? That's just the way people's perception is going to go. So file sharing could be considered another one of those APIs where you want to make sure that you've given the business a facility to share that the business controls. And really, the authentication API example where we say Microsoft's in charge. It's not really Microsoft that's in charge. The business is in charge, and using Microsoft to make all of these third parties do it one single way. You got to do the same thing for file sharing for the business. Say, okay, these are the three file shares we support because we can control the security. We've got cloud app security. We can see what comes in, what goes out. If someone's misusing it, and make sure that that's presented.
So truly now